So we at Trinitas really enjoy making wine in oak barrels. We love oak, we love the flavor that oak brings, the complexity that oak brings to wine, and we invest a lot every single year in bringing brand new barrels into our winemaking program. So, I always get the question, how long can you keep a barrel? How long does a barrel last? How long do you get flavor out of barrels? Well, technically we could keep barrels as long as they physically hold wine in them without leaking. So years and years and years. But we really only use barrels that still contribute some flavor to the wine because we love what that does on all of our wines. So typically at Trinitas, you're only going to see us use a barrel for about 4 to 5 years, depending on which wine, because it depends on the amount of turn. So on a white wine, you get a faster turn typically because it's 1 year in barrel, but on some of our Bordeaux programs, the barrel program's more closer to 2 years. So, you might get a third turn on that barrel. We love American oak, French oak, and then we also really love Russian oak, which is a little bit less common oak. They all deliver their little nuances, and we really pick out each oak type for each of our wines based on what's going to marry best and really complement those wines the best. Kevin and I every year have a barrel experimentation where we pick out one wine, one blend, one varietal, where we actually do a whole new barrel program on it, and it's mostly new oak. And we do that because at the end, we're about to bottle, we say, gee, what oak worked the best? Was it our old program? Or maybe it's a totally different oak. So we're constantly blending, constantly experimenting with different oak types, different toast levels, all sorts of great things. We always talk about oak, right? And French oak and American oak and Russian oak. And there's other oak types out there as well, but we'll focus on those three because that's mainly what we use. We call it our spice rack, right? So, we talk about sun, soil, humanity. That sun element is really the most important variable in all of winemaking. It's the weather, right? We have no control over it. So when we get that fruit and then eventually juice as winemakers, we have two great tools. One is blending, which we love to do, and that's one of our favorite tools. But really, oak is another incredible winemaking tool to impact the flavor. So imagine cooking in your kitchen, right? You've got a great piece of chicken or maybe a steak, for example, and how you season it completely changes the flavor of that particular protein or whatever you're making tonight, right? So oak's the same exact concept. What do we want the end product, the end wine to taste like? What fruit characteristics are in this wine? And what characteristics does that vineyard bring to the wine? Well, in American oak, it's a very bold oak. American oak goes a long way. It's the coarsest or widest grain oak of those three. And what that means is basically the wine gets into the barrel more, and so you extract more flavor faster. So you can get some big bold flavors, and you don't, a little dab will do you on American oak, but sometimes some wines we want more of that flavor. So you're getting more caramel, more vanilla, more butterscotch. So those really kind of warmer, sweeter flavors from the American oak that we really love. And American oak, we typically go with a medium plus toast with a toasted head because it really brings out those vanilla and butterscotch flavors that we love. So then you have French oak. A lot of times we use French oak for our Bordeaux programs, and the reason is because it's a lot tighter grain. So the flavor release is a little bit slower, it's a little bit more finesse, and if you think about it, these wines are going to be in barrel for a much longer period of time, so you want that slower release from the oak. But it's also about the flavors. You get some nice spice components from that French oak, but you're also getting some more coffee, mocha, dark chocolate flavors that we really love, and that we particularly want to integrate into our Bordeaux program as well. And then you have Russian oak, which is a completely different beast. Something that's very unusual. There's very few wineries, particularly in America, using it, but we sort of stumbled upon it back in 2010, and it was a great accident that we did. And it's continued to grow in our portfolio from, back then I think we started out only using like 8 or 10 barrels, and we're probably, ordering more like 50 barrels of Russian oak. And it's not just in our Sauvignon Blanc anymore, it started to get sprinkled across all of our programs. But what is Russian oak? Well, it's oak from Russia. and where it comes from is a lot colder. So it's even tighter grain than French oak. A lot of people talk about how tight grain French oak is, but Russian oak's even tighter. So it's even a slower release of flavor, but the flavor is totally different. And the other piece behind Russian oak is about mouthfeel. Russian oak delivers an incredible mouthfeel, but it really hits you on the back palate. So American and French oak tend to be a little bit more dominant on the front and the mid palate, which we like. We want that wine the minute it enters your mouth to be like, wow, this is just a lot of flavor, a lot going on here. But sometimes they don't deliver as much flavor on the finish, and the finish is as important as the forepalate. So a lot of times we use Russian oak on a wine that we want to have some beautiful, beautiful finish on, but also we can use it as a caboose to help aid the French or American oak on creating a fuller, more complete wine from front to back. So it has this incredible ability to really hit your palate on the finish on the back end, which is just really, really an interesting characteristic behind that oak. But the flavors you get are also really spectacular. And the wine that you'll really notice this on is our family collection Chardonnay from the Castellucci vineyard, because we almost exclusively use Russian oak, and it's pretty darn close to 100% new every year as well. So you're getting that maximum extraction, and it's almost 2 years in that Russian oak as well. So what are you getting? Pick up the glass, smell it, because the nose is really interesting on this Russian oak. We call it baking spices. So you just get a whole array of baking spices from Russian oak. But what are those? What are we talking about? We're talking about cinnamon, we're talking about allspice. You get a little bit of clove in there, and just a whole array of baking spices. If you bake a lot, you like to make cookies and all other things, you're gonna really recognize some of those spices, the nutmeg in there, that really comes out from that Russian oak that we think is very unique and really special, and that's why we use it. But all these oaks are great. They all deliver their own unique characteristics, and it's really, really fun to experiment with them, try new things with these barrels, try new toast levels. I mean, the complexity that goes into making oak barrels is as complex as making wine. So when you come out to Napa, let us know. We'd love to introduce you to some of our coopers that are more local. You got to take a tour, because it's just going to blow your mind how interesting and how intricate the whole barrel making process is, and how important it is to our process at Trinitas and in winemaking.